Hello and welcome back, Commanders, Cerebrats, and Executors to StarCraft Lorecast, the podcast where we dive deep into the lore, stories, and both the interesting and fun facts about the StarCraft universe. I'm your host, General of Fire, known as the War Meister, and I hope you are ready to dive back into this favorite RTS franchise of ours. So I'd like to apologize for the long delay of an episode. I was kind of a bit busy with work. As I've stated previously, I am currently serving in the military. So I try to get this in when I can. But today, what will we be going over today? Well, let's get into that. Eldritch abominations, man-made horrors, terrifying creations of villains, and the twisted machinations of science unbound. Many things like this exist within many separate universes, and today we speak of one such thing. For today's episodes, we are looking at the last of the races that have made an impact within the Koprulu Sector and the StarCraft franchise as a whole. The race that we are looking at today, if maybe some of you might know it already, are the hybrids, the eldritch abominations that stalk the Koprulu sector and the back half of the main StarCraft 2 campaigns. So, what is a hybrid? Well, it's in the name, it's a hybrid of something. In this case, it's a hybrid of Protoss and Zerg, a perverse fusion of the both species. Described as false Zelnaga, they were the ultimate weapon of the fallen Zelnaga Amon and are key to his plan to remake creation in his image. So, the Zelnaga regularly seeded the universe with life as a part of their infinite cycle. Over many generations, two species, one with the purity of form and another with the purity of essence, would come together naturally. Their Zelnaga progenitors would then transfer their essence to them, giving rise to a new generation of Zelnaga, which would go on to repeat the cycle itself. Well, Amon, however, viewed this cycle as corrupt and flawed, that it just brought about misery and pain to the races of the universe. So, to the, he desired to remake it, the universe, within his own image. And to this end, he and his followers would violate the Xel'Naga's rule of non-intervention by uplifting both the Protoss and the Zerg with the intention of merging the two species to create the hybrid. Contrary to the Xel'Naga's intent, the hybrids were the result of a perversion of their infinite cycle, as their creation will not lead to the rebirth of the true Xel'Naga. Overt knowledge of the hybrids began spreading among the Terrans, Protoss, and Zerg after the Brood War, and most who knew understood the dire threat the hybrids posed in the universe. So, basically, hybrids are false Xel'Nagas, not true ones. They aren't able to take in the essence of the previous generation of Xel'Naga to continue on the cycle, the infinite cycle of the Xel'Naga as a whole. So, hybrids possess a consume DNA ability, which inflicts harm on whatever it is used against. Hybrids would preferentially attack Protoss and Zerg with it, and in an apocalyptic future, they use this ability to finish off the Zerg swarm, or how it with basically that apocalyptic future is the levels you play as when you're in StarCraft 2, Wings of Liberty, the final mission from the, oh, good lord, I'm gonna mess up the name of the crystal, so I'm not even gonna try and say it. But that's what they utilize to finish off the Zerg swarm after, you complete the mission. So psionics, when they'd read the thoughts of hybrids, would describe them as the red hate. Nocturson Minx believed he had a frequency that would calm the hybrid and render them docile, allowing him to utilize them as weapons. So that's just a quick overview, but let's dive a bit more into the history of the hybrids themselves. The Grand Experiment. The Xel'Naga were a species that reproduced by seeding the universe with life. In time, two species would emerge, one that was pure of form and the other pure of essence. Inevitably, these two species would, through peaceful means, come together and merge, enabling their Xel'Naga creators to pass their essence onto them, thus giving rise to the next generation of Xel'Naga. Although the Zelnaga watched over the younger races, they never interfered with their evolution or development. One Zelnaga, Amon, viewed this cycle as corrupt and saw it as the source of all suffering within the universe. After gathering a group of like minded followers, Amon set out to find the two races he could uplift and groom to create the perfect life form that would end the cycle. He would first uplift the Protoss of Ire to be pure form, before departing to the world of Saros, where he uplifted the Zerg, which he considered to be pure of essence. As part of his plan, he created the Overmind, a collection of Zerg sentience in order to enforce the purity of essence. So, as we spoke about in the Protoss episode, after Amon found out that the Protoss were becoming too individualized and not following the path that he wanted, he would leave uh, Ire, find the Zerg to uplift them. Bada bing, bada boom. You have two races, one of purity of form and one purity of essence. The Overmind's free will was undermined by an overriding directive to destroy the Protoss. This was part of a greater plan by Amon to remold creation in his own image. The Overmind would defy Amon's manipulations, but could do little to resist it. It would later attempt to undermine Amon by creating the Queen of Blades as a way to bypass its directives, or Sarah Kerrigan being corrupted. When the other Zelnaga discovered Amon's experiments and tried to put a stop to them, Amon would unleash the overminded swarm against the Zelnaga world ships over Xeris. The swarm wiped out the majority of the Zelnaga, drawing the infinite cycle into turmoil. The swarm would then embark into space to complete the Zelnaga's work by absorbing the Protoss. The Protoss became aware that it wished to finish the Zelnaga experiments. Tassadar would then destroy the Overmind, believing it would run rampant throughout the stars, consuming all sentience and all life. Although the Zerg desired to assimilate the Protoss, the Kala and the Void protected the Protoss from infestation, preventing the Zerg from absorbing the Protoss into their fold. So, going on into Duran's experiments, fulfilling the machinations of Amon, Samir Duran worked to produce a perfected Protoss-Zerg hybrid as part of a stepping stone in order to create much more powerful host body in order to sustain his master. By the end of the Brood War, he had established development bases on multiple worlds and successfully created numerous specimens. The work was accelerated by Sarah Kerrigan's assimilation by the Zerg. Duran claimed that this creature was the completion of a cycle. Its role in the cosmic order was preordained when the stars were young. One base on a dark moon was discovered accidentally by the dark prelate Zerator. He was en route from Char, having killed the second Overmind for Kerrigan and slain Matriarch Razigal to save the Matriarch from Kerrigan's influence. The prelate sought to find and rendezvous with Praetor Artanis and thought the Protoss energy signatures emanating from the moon were from Protoss stragglers or the Praetor's forces. Zerator would lead a party to the surface and would end up finding not Protoss, but a hybrid development base instead. He was puzzled by Terran mercenaries seemingly using Protoss technology, and the Protoss, Zerg, and infested Terran specimens kept in the stasis cells. Zerator would be horrified when they would discover the hybrid specimen's cell, and the prelate was disturbed further when he was contacted by Duran, who told him that the experiments were being sponsored by a greater power, and specimens were secreted out on multiple worlds. Zerator would destroy the sleeping hybrid before departing. Zerator would be unable to explain his unnerving discovery and would keep it secret, but would embark on a solitary fact-finding journey in the year 2503. Ulrazaj created strange creatures which he kept in vats in an underground city underneath Ire sometime after the fall of Ire. Their true nature is unknown, but they have psionic powers, and the loyal Tal'Darim were taught to trap Zerg for him. The creatures were kept secret from the Tal'Darim, whom Ulrazaj was draining for their energy. Jake Ramsey, a Terran archaeologist with a preserver Zamara embedded in his mind, located these creatures in 2502. Zamara suggested they may be a type of hybrid, and Zerator would encounter Samara shortly afterward and exchange information. He told her about the hybrid he saw on the dark moon, and she told him about the Zelnaga cycle. According to Zamara, Smearduran's experiments are a perversion of what was to be, and if attempts to unify the species became successful, it will result in a monstrous and powerful perversion of both Protoss and Zerg. Will be set loose upon the universe, and all that we know and cherish will fall in their wake. Going on into the Second Great War, there's a cool hybrid. The hybrids would be released on the eve of the Second Great War. The hybrid destroyer Mar went to the Protoss archive world of Sakul and attempted to leech the energies of her servers. It also subverted the planet's defenders, the Sakul Guardians, into protecting it. The hybrid was ultimately stopped by Zeratul, who came to the planet to consult with the preservers regarding the ancient Zelnaga prophecy, which Zeratul had recently discovered. But Duran was not the only one who would do these experiments because the Terran Dominion would perform the experiments. A few years prior to the Second Great War, the Terran Dominion had initiated a hybrid breeding program based out of Skygear. I think that's how you say it. The Dominion would also conduct hybrid experiments at a secret facility orbiting Castanar. The gene splicing technology was far more advanced than anything the Terrans had, suggesting that the Dominion had help. Discovering the facility, Raynor's raiders would attack it, discovering numerous hybrids being cloned within. They destroyed the fusion core, causing a containment field to weaken, and a particularly powerful hybrid reaver would emerge. The raiders fled as it went on a rampage, attacking Protoss, Zerg, and Terrans alike. So, Mobius Foundation would also conduct experiments. Prior to 2504, Dr. Emil Nerud of the Mobius Foundation created at least 3 hybrids on space station Prometheus, something which he did not keep secret from his benefactor, Valerian Mex. However, Nerud concealed from him how far his experiments had gone. Each of the hybrids had a markedly different appearance than the other. During a conflict following the Battle of Char, Nerud would betray Valerian Minx by unleashing the hybrid against him and Raynor. Arcturus Minx, who also knew about these hybrids, contacted Valerian and Raynor and informed them that Nerud could pacify the hybrid with a specific psionic signal, only if the two would surrender to the Dominion. However, an uninfested, recovering Sarah Kerrigan unleashed her psionic powers on the hybrid, killing 2 of them. The third would protect Nerud as he would escape the station with the Zelnaga artifact. The dropship Fanfare would then kill this final hybrid. Next time the hybrid would come up would be during the Heart of the Swarm campaign on Skygear Station, where Kerrigan would be drawn to it due to his psionic energy type thing, which would turn out to be Alexei Stukov, who would theorize that the hybrid collected the energy used when the Keystone de-infested Sarah Kerrigan. This energy would later then be used to try and resurrect Aeon. But on moving on to High Skygear Station, there's a nice quote that Mr. Alexei Stukov would speak to Kerrigan. Kerrigan, this lab houses the culmination of the Runes research, the hybrid. They are the ultimate weapon of the final war. Ooh, ooh, gives you chills. So, hybrid dominators were encountered by Kerrigan and her forces on Skygear Station, led by Naru. They broke free of containment, overcame the Dominion forces assigned to oversee them, and then remotely attacked Kerrigan through psionic means. However, the Zerg were able to overcome them. Naru would make a final stand at a series of Zelnaga shrines further in the station. His loyal Tal'Darim faced Dukov and Kerrigan, and many hybrid Reavers would fight alongside the Tal'Darim. Stukov led the Zerg to victory, however, and Kerrigan would face Nerud in single combat, where Nerud revealed his shapeshifter abilities. Kerrigan would then stab Nerud, but as the shapeshifter lay dying, he revealed that Amon had already been revived. Moving on to Legacy of the Void, Prelude to Oblivion. In the aftermath of the Second Great War, the hybrid began to awake and seize control of the Mobius core and the Mobius Foundation Terrans that were creating them, turning them into Dralls. One such facility was the Ravenscar facility, where the majority of hybrids were created. A number of hybrids controlled Mobius core troops at a base, which Ceratol and Kerrigan would discover. They killed many of the Thralls, and Ceratol's troops slew the hybrids. Ceratol was there to find Amon's rebirth place and believed that slaying the hybrid was meaningless, as he needed to find the Xel'Naga to defeat Amon instead. Ceratol and Praetor Talus's forces would later attack the Temple of Eris on Atreus, and the Tal'Darim would fail to keep Ceratol out and would instead attack Talus's forces outside the temple. The hybrid would join in the assault within the temple, and within the temple, Ceratol would fight more Tal'Darim troops, including hybrid. High Lord Malash seemed to hold hybrid reavers in high esteem, but Ceratol could still fight them. Amon would then emerge from the void, summoning shadows of the void to attack Ceratol along with the hybrid. Ceratol would thus be forced to flee before Amon destroyed the temple. Then on to the End War. Meanwhile, the Dalim launched the first attempt to reclaim Ire. Hierarch Artanis was warned by Ceratol of Amon's plans, but he chose to ignore him to try and save his people, as he thought he was doing. During the battle to reclaim the warp conduits on the planet, Amon's hybrid forces would begin to coordinate the Amon brood Zerg attacks against the Protoss. When the Dalim sieged the final warp conduit, hybrid forces would appear to directly intercede in its defense. The appearance of the hybrid convinced Artanis to act against Amon, and he would prepare his forces for the coming war. However, Amon would seize control of the Kala and would send hybrid forces alongside corrupted Protoss and Amon brood Zerg against Artanis' few uncontrolled Protoss forces. He then released the hybrid alongside his armies to begin his galactic conquest. Now, this has all happened during Legacy of the Void, and within that expansion, you could choose however you want to go about each of these missions. What I'm going to read isn't exactly chronological order, but it is all canon to the hybrid species and the story of StarCraft 2. So, during Amon's assault on Shakuris, Amon held his hybrid forces back and would utilize Zerg forces to test the Dalim defenses of the planet. During the final assault on the Xel'Naga Temple of Shakuris, Amon will send his hybrid through the planet's warp gate and use them to besiege the temple. The assault was unsuccessful in destroying the temple in time, and Amon's forces on the planet were annihilated when the temple's overloaded phase prism destroyed the planet. Hybrid were also present during Mobius Core's siege of Korhal. When Mobius Core retrieved the Keystone and retrieved the Bennett port, Hybrid would appear to aid in its defense, and Hybrid Dominators would channel void energy into the Keystone to stun all Terran forces. This attack did not affect Dalim forces aiding the Terran Dominion, though, who were able to push through the energy surges and would retrieve the Keystone. The Hybrid and Mobius Core were then pushed from Korhal by the Terran Dominion forces under Valerian mix. When Artanis would find his way to Ulnar with the intention of resurrecting the slumbering Xel'Naga there, he found Sarah Kerrigan engaged with hybrid forces. The two would fight them off, and she would reveal she had been fighting them for days. The two would then fight through a hybrid that barred their path to uncover the secrets of the ruins, but found the Xel'Naga already dead when they arrived. Amon would then open a rift to the void to destroy Artanis and Kerrigan, and send his hybrid forces to stop them from destroying the void crystals powering the portal. These defenses would fail, and the crystals would be destroyed. When the Dalim attempted to reawaken the purifiers on Cybros, hybrid forces were sent to reinforce the Amon brood that landed on the platform. These were destroyed alongside the Zerg when the purifiers awakened and cleansed the station. During the Dalim's attempts to instate First Descendant Alarak as High Lord, hybrid forces guarded the Guardians of Malash and supplemented the Tal'Darim forces. When Alarak finally fought Malash in Rakshir, hybrid channeled their psionic energy to Malash to help him defeat Alarak. However, this would fail, and Alarak would reveal that Amon's promise to the Tal'Darim that they would send into hybrid was a lie. As such, he commanded the Tal'Darim to destroy Amon and his forces. During the conflict, Matriarch Vorazun sent her best Dark Templar to track down the facility where hybrids were being created. Her scouts would eventually discover Revanskar, and the Dalim set a course for this facility. However, Mobius Corps battlecruisers trapped them, and hybrid forces began to board the Spear of Adun. Faves Smith Carax led the assault on the facility itself, destroying its power generators. The Spear of Adun would then fire on the facility, ending the Mobius Corps as a threat and destroying their hybrid breeding operations. As the Dalim returned to reclaim Ire, they first sought to delay the corrupted Golden Armada's arrival by destroying the planet's psionic matrix. After the first Kedarian crystal powering the matrix was destroyed, hybrid defenders were sent alongside corrupted Kalai Protoss to defend the second. Karax and Talandar reclaimed a force of robotic units and used them to break through the hybrid lines to destroy the second crystal. At the site of the dead Overmind, Amon had created a hybrid body from Protoss flesh combined with that of the Overmind. The hybrid would attempt to stop the Dalim from destroying the void crystals, defending Amon's host body, but the Dalim broke through and unleashed a massive orbital bombardment on it, destroying Amon's hosts and leaving only the Kala left for him to inhabit. And you do have stuff from the co-op missions, but it's unknown about its canonicity status. So some of it could be, and some of it could not be, but you probably shouldn't consider this part of the official StarCraft storyline. But I'm going to talk about it anyways, because we don't have too much about hybrids unless you go through the co-op stuff. So over the course of the End War, Amon would deploy hybrid across the sector and would be forced to be defeated the commanders of the would be forced to try and defeat the commanders of the different factions of the sector. Amon would attempt to summon a Void Shard hybrid on a Protoss colony world, but it was discovered by the Nerazim Lyrak, who alerted two allied commanders. The commanders were successful in destroying the Void Slivers, protecting the Void Shade hybrid, and bombarding it before it could be resurrected. Terran Dominion forces under General Carolina Davis, remember her, discovered that Mobius Foundation were breeding Mobius hybrids in a secret facility. The general called on two allied commanders and acquired an experimental archangel named Balius to destroy the hybrids. The combined forces were successful in slaying all Mobius hybrid within the facility. And of course, the hybrid would be encountered during, oh, good lord, is it Into the Void? The final epilogue bit of StarCraft 2, right before Nova Ops campaigns, you would encounter some hybrid within those missions where you finally defeat Amon for once and for good. So, and then Armageddon, which is the apocalyptic vision that the Overmind had, which would remain unknown at large until the prelate Zeratul sought out the creature's memories. He sought the greater understanding to a dire prophecy from Ulan foretelling the end of the Xel'Naga cycle. The prelate would learn of the Overmind's vision through Testar's spirit. In it, the Zerg were enslaved by Amon and the hybrids after the death of Kerrigan. The tyrants were soon annihilated, and the combined hybrid Zerg force destroyed the Protoss before turning on and eliminating the Zerg as well. Now, that's what we have of the history. I'd like to go into the different types encountered. Normally, I would save this for a later video, but like I stated, we don't have a lot on the hybrids, unfortunately. Their lore, how they utilized and whatnot, that type of stuff. So I'm going to go into different types now, whereas other factions, I'll go over specific units in separate videos. So first up, we're going to talk about the Hybrid Destroyer, which is a type of Protoss-Zerg hybrid, primarily based on the former species of the Protoss, sometimes referred to as a hybrid Protoss. It is a powerful sentient being wielding psionic and void-based powers. Going into a brief history, the hybrid destroyer Mars traveled to the Protoss world of Zakul and captured 3 preservers, as well as controlling some of the Protoss defenders stationed on the planet. When Zeratul arrived, seeking interpretation of an ancient prophecy, Mar would attack him, retreating when he was grievously injured, only to leech energy from the preservers to regenerate. When the preservers were freed by Zeratul, his energy sources were thus removed, and then Mar died. In a dark future foreseen by the Overmind and others through it, hybrid destroyers were deployed in an attack which wiped out the Protoss species during their last stand. On Skygear Station, Sarah Kerrigan battled multiple hybrid destroyer variants called Dominators. The Dominators were commanded by the shapeshifter Emil Narud and would attempt to drain Kerrigan's life force through their psionic attacks. The Dominators were much stronger than the normal destroyers and had abilities similar to those of Mar. During the End War, the hybrid destroyer served as a staple unit in Amon's hybrid armies, as well as the more powerful Dominator variant. Or basically, the hybrid destroyer was kind of like the circling, uh, oh, not acolyte. I'm blanking on the Protoss basic infantry, or the Terran Marine of the hybrid forces, your basic infantry troop. Um, So, development, the hybrid destroyer was once the only type of hybrid unit in StarCraft 2, later balanced through the Zerg-based hybrid Reaver. StarCraft 2 beta files listed as a Zeldaga destroyer. A little bit of trivia, the glowing tendrils of hybrid destroyers are similar to the angelic wings from the Diablo universe. Um, so, hybrid dominators are enhanced versions of the destroyers. Dominators were experimental hybrids created years prior to the Second Great War. But Narud continued to experiment on them. They had mental indoctrination to keep them under control. Uh, War history. 8 Dominators were created in a secret Terran Dominion lab at Skygear Station, commanded by Dr. Emil Narud, a servant of the fallen Zelnaga Amon. When Kerrigan and the Zerg swarm would attack Skygear and infiltrate the lab, the Dominators were released from their cells. They would then attack Kerrigan psionically and attempt to drain her life, but Kerrigan and her forces fought and killed each one and destroyed the lab. Dominators would then reappear alongside the Mobius Core in their attack on Core Hall during the End War. They channeled the energy of the Keystone to disrupt the Dominion forces. They would later appear on Ulnar, where they would guard the Amon's Void Crystals. Later, they would aid High Lord Malash on Slain in a duel with First Ascendant Alrag and Rockshir, channeling psychic energy to them. The hybrid Dominators would reappear alongside a hybrid Behemoth to defend the Psionic Matrix on Ire, in an effort to stop the Dalim from delaying the Golden Armada's return. And a Dominator was present at the felt defense of Amon's host body. And then within the co-op missions during the End War, the hybrid Dominators served as elite spellcasters in Amon's hybrid armies across the sector and were commonly encountered and overcome by allied commanders. Uh, During development, hybrid Dominators originally possessed the ability to merge with one another like Archons, Protoss Archons. The original mission mechanics involved them creating a psionic vortex that would destroy Katil if 3 would merge. Our next hybrid we'll go over is the Mobius hybrid. Mobius hybrids were a special breed of hybrid created by Mobius Core for Amon. They're a twisted amalgamation of Terran technology and hybrid and have powerful psionic abilities. During the End War, General Carolina Davis of the Terran Dominion discovered the facility where the Mobius hybrids were being bred. She captured an Archangel prototype named the Bellius, turning it against the hybrids with the aid of 2 allied commanders. After a fierce fight, all 3 Mobius hybrids in the facility would thus be destroyed. Next up, our next hybrid unit is the hybrid Nemesis. The hybrid Nemesis is a unit that appears in StarCraft II Legacy of the Void. These hybrids were first encountered in the End War at the fall of Shakur's, aided in the ill-fated defense of the Revenskar hybrid breeding facility, and were present at the defense of Amon's host body on Ire. Then you have the Prometheus hybrid. The Prometheus hybrid were a trio of Protoss Zerg hybrids created by Dr. Emil Nabrun and housed aboard the Mobius Foundation Research Facility Space Station Prometheus. Each of these hybrids were unique in appearance. Jane Rayner likened them to being Narud's personal pets. The first hybrid was an insectoid-like being with sideways jaws, 6 slender, Protoss-like legs, each with a razor-sharp claw on its end, and a pair of scythe-shaped appendages. The second was a squat creature with the long skull of a Protoss and the jaws of a Zergling, with a fan-like bony protrusion behind its head. Both of these hybrids had a glowing blue radiance and proved invulnerable to C-14 rifle rounds. The third hybrid had a hydralisk-shaped lower body and a pair of bat-like wings, much like those of the original Queen of Blades. This hybrid moves surprisingly fast despite its legless body and its appendages sported pincers large enough to cut a person in half. During the Flashpoint conflict, as the Dominion fleet approached Prometheus Station, Neruda sent the Squat and the six-legged hybrid after Raynar and Valerian Manx. While fleeing the hybrid, the two fugitives ran into a team of Neruda's human guards. Raynar and Valerian would gun them down, briefly distracting the hybrid, which instinctively stopped to finish off the survivors. Emperor Arcturus Minx then contacted the two fugitives and informed them that Dr. Narud could pacify the hybrid with a special frequency, but only if Rainer and Valerian would surrender themselves and Sarah Kerrigan to custody of the Terran Dominion. Rainer and Valerian would refuse and would continue to flee, but the hybrid resumed the chase and soon cornered them. Just as the hybrid moved in to finish them off, Sarah Kerrigan appeared and used her psionic powers to telepathically explode the squat hybrid's head. She then tore the six-legged hybrid apart with her bare hands. The pincer hybrid protected Neruda as he prepared to escape the station with the Selnaga artifact. While Rainer, Valerian, and Egon Stetman engaged the Dominion Marines in the docking bay, Kerrigan took on the pincer hybrid alone. This hybrid proved to be much more formidable than the other two and managed to wound Kerrigan. In the middle of the battle, the Raider dropship Fanfare arrived and used this newly installed weaponry to kill the pincer hybrid. However, the rebels would fail to stop Neruda from escaping with the artifact. Afterwards, we had the Hybrid Reaver. The Hybrid Reaver is an extremely powerful Zerg-based type of hybrid. They are capable of basic speech and can exert control over Zerg and Terrans through mind control. Uh, so, Hybrid Reaver was created in a secret Terran Dominion facility at Castanar. Rhaenys Raiders would discover the creature and destroy its holding cell. When the cell was destroyed, the Reaver then proceeded to destroy the facility. The Raiders barely escaped into Hercules transport, after which the Reaver screamed at them as the facility exploded around it. In the dark apocalyptic future foreseen by the Overmind and others through it, many hybrid Reavers were deployed to help destroy the Protons during their last stand. Within Skygear Station, many Reavers had already been created and placed in stasis tubes by the time the Zerg arrived to destroy the upper level of the lab, when hybrid Dominators were released from the stasis cells and began to attack Kerrigan psionically. Sarah Kerrigan and her Zerg minions encountered stronger hybrid Reavers on Skygear Station. These Reavers, along with a band of Tal'Darim Protoss, were under the control of the shapeshifter Nil Narud. Within the Legacy of the Void, hybrid Reavers were encountered in Coruscant during the Golden Armada's invasion of the planet. They directed Zerg against the Dalim invaders. However, they were all slain. Raveners were then encountered at the ruins of Kor Shakal, Bennett Port, and on Shakur's Honor, Cybroth, slain, and on Ire when the Dalim returned to the world. A more powerful variant named the Hybrid Behemoth was also encountered throughout the End War. And during the End War, the Hybrid Reaver would serve as a staple unit in Amon's hybrid armies across the sector and were commonly encountered by Allied commanders. Going over its development, originally the Protoss-based hybrid destroyer was the only type of hybrid unit in StarCraft II. The idea of the Zerg-based one had been pitched by Samwise Dieter in concept art labeled as hybrid, but was effectively abandoned for a year. Eventually, the idea of a Zerg-based hybrid was pitched within the design team, and Dieter's concept was resurrected as the Hybrid Viper. In the final game, it was known as the Hybrid Reaver, mostly the same, but unlike the Viper, it had tentacles coming off its back that aren't visible on lower graphic settings, wherein the player must set effects to medium or above. And interesting enough, within the game Heroes of the Storm, though it's not canon, a Hybrid Reaver hero had been listed as being under consideration for inclusion within Heroes of the Storm. So, pretty interesting. A couple quick notes. The Reaver's portrait is available in StarCraft 2. It's a portrait reward available for Team Random 1000 achievement, and its quotes are the same as those of Archons. Our next hybrid unit is the Hybrid Behemoth, which is a powerful version of the Hybrid Reaver. It was first seen on Ulnar as an attempt to destroy the last shrine in the Hall of Revelation alongside other hybrid. It was slain by Hierarch Artanis and Sarah Kerrigan, and Behemoths would later be seen on Slain, Cybros, and Ire. And during the end war, the hybrid behemoths served as titanic frontline attackers in Amon's hybrid armies across the sector and were commonly encountered and overcome by Allied commanders. And the last of the hybrid units we will talk about is the Void Shade hybrid. The Void Shade hybrid was a very powerful breed of hybrid created by Amon. Due to its immense power, it required more preparation to summon than regular hybrids. During the End War, the Narazim scout Lyrak discovered an operation in which Amon's forces were attempting to channel energy from Void Slivers into a Zelnaga temple in order to summon this hybrid. Lyrak called for the aid of Allied commanders to help them, and together they destroyed the Void Slivers and prevented its summoning. In the event that the commanders fail, the hybrid weakens and fires an energy beam, sweeping it through the commander's bases and destroying them in a single attack. Within co-op, the Void Shade hybrid appears in the co-op missions map Scythe of Amon, in which the players must destroy the Void Slivers before it awakens. Ah. So, those are all the different types of hybrids that can be encountered within StarCraft 2 and within the co-op missions of StarCraft 2. A couple more notes on hybrid as a whole. Despite being similar in concept, hybrids are not infested Protoss because, as stated previously, the Zerg cannot infest the Protoss due to the Kala and the Void. The idea of hybrids infiltrating Terran governments and precipitating civil wars has been raised, and according to Chris Metzen, the idea may be pursued, but as of 2011, there are no plans to do so. And what I think everybody will like, as the StarCraft tabletop miniature games is close to be releasing, it has been confirmed that the hybrid will be added as a fourth faction post-launch alongside the current Terran, Zerg, and Protoss factions. Going over the development, in the earliest stages of StarCraft 2, hybrid were considered as a fourth race for the game. During the development, the Xel'Naga were considered as a possible fourth race, but as lore was developed, it was deemed that the Xel'Naga were too powerful to be playable. The hybrid ended up becoming a Xel'Naga proxies within the campaign. Blizzard would go through thousands of hybrid designs over the course of StarCraft 2's development, and out of the thousands of forms pitched, only a few would be locked down. The cut designs were aquatic and graceful, intended to convey an alien look that was more advanced than the Protoss and Zerg. And cut lines for Heart of the Swarm indicate that hybrids would have been encountered outside Skygear in a pre-release version of the game. So, that's everything we have on this last major race, or I guess somewhat race, that has caused a stir or has caused an impact upon the Koprulu Sector and the other races living within. So it just goes to show you that even creatures that we create will come back and haunt us at times, or things we didn't think possible could become possible, all due to the machinations of a madman. I blame you, Dr. Naru. But that is all we have today for the races. And this is going to be a little bit more of a shorter one than I expected. Please stay tuned. We'll start going over the different sort of sub factions in each of the main races. Mostly Terran, as Terran have a lot of sub factions, the Zerg and the Protoss. So the Zerg don't have too many, and it's mainly, I think, Terran like experiments on these Zergs. But I hope you all enjoyed this one. I hope to see you soon, as long as I'm able to get this going. And hey, I don't know about you all, but I'm excited to learn more about the hybrids through the StarCraft tabletop miniature game. So, this is General Fire signing off.